Hi everyone, this is Pedro Fonseca, and today I'll be sharing a little bit of my experience in the SPAD 561 class. This is the final presentation. I think that was a wonderful summer and just an opportunity to learn so much about black women in sports. I think that is so much that I took away this semester. I prepare a PowerPoint, but unfortunately, I'm not very good with technology, so I wasn't able to to have the PowerPoint and the video at the same time. But I'm gonna be reading from my bullet points in the PowerPoint here and just sharing a little bit of what I learned. Um, for me, to start off, being from Brazil, different country where there is a lot of also black influence. I think black uh, athletes go through a lot in Brazil as well, especially women. Um, they have to be 10 times, 100 times better than anybody else, and that's unfortunately something that's cultural and needs to change. But just to get started off, I think some of the takeaways I have in women's sports, it's sports are a microscope of society. So sports definitely shows a little bit of our society. So as you can see, like in the U.S., women doesn't have a lot of opportunity um, for jobs. In general, I think men have much more privilege. So you can see that in sports, how um, the double NBA, we have the examples of players who have to go play abroad because they just don't make not even close, not even 2% of the minimum that men make. And I think that was something that was really shocked for me because I had no idea of that. Um, Also, the activism and the resistance typology in sports, I think so many times can be like misinterpreted, and that's something that I learned in this class. Um, so many times we think that just because somebody stands for something and they're black, they already being like an activist, but that's just not the reality of, especially because people has different um, ideologies and they stand for different things. A good example would be Colin Kaepernick and Muhammad Ali. Both of them stood for what they believe, but you can see it's a completely different reality. Muhammad Ali, when he stood for something, um, and in his story, like you can see that he pretty much like people want to put him in jail. He was in a situation where things were really complicated for him, and he didn't even know how his life was going to look like. On the other hand, Colin Kaepernick, he he did kneel in the national anthem and he stood for for black culture and for everything that has been happening in this country. However, he already had a millionaire contract on his hands, and also you can see the influence that he had afterwards because of social media and everything. Uh, he had Nike opportunities and all of that. So you can see that that is a big difference. He didn't have as much online as Muhammad Ali had at the time that he stood for. Also, that is religion implicates this, and also, um, you know, at that time you can see that he not believing in a religion that it's like the majority here in the U.S. You can see that he went through a lot of hard times because of it. Uh, Also, I could learn in this class about like the social, political, and racial issues and how they are like interconnected. But anything that you can see like that people stand for, especially also like schools, and you can see like sometimes the NCAA stands for um, Black Lives Matter or whatever it is. I think it's a lot of like because of the political and the financial part more than anything. Sometimes you can see that their investments, what they put it in, are not even close to what black athletes, bring of income. You can see that basketball and football, for example, are sports that is so many black male and female athletes that bring so much money to the sports, and sometimes the investment that they give back, for important causes like they're like minimum. So how much of that is actually like in a genuine for genuine cause, for genuine reasons, so it was something that I was able to reflect on. I think that's one of the things that most touched me throughout this semester was the OJ's story. OJ was an unbelievable athlete, had opportunities that a lot of white and black athletes would like to have. Me being a Latino, I think knowing the school that he went in South California, big school, majority of it's kind of like a dream, but you can see that his mentality and the way how he approached things, he was definitely pursuing more his personal and selfish desires more than anything. At any moment, he wanted to be judged by the color of skin or try to bring a change to society. Was everything about how can I make my name, how can I make myself famous and rich, and if I can help the black culture doing that, awesome. But I think his like personal idea, his goal was to not be judged by his roots or the color of his skin, but more than anything, just for his talent and who he was as a person. Um, I can understand. I understand that being a minority sometimes can be something a little bit overwhelmed, and you end up being in a kind of like protective way. But I believe to bring a change, big names like that needs to stand for that change, needs to lead that way. Another story that was really interesting for me was the Dream Team, the women's basketball in the Olympic Games, and how they had that pressure in their shoulders to perform and to win, uh, and how things could be so much different if they hadn't won, and maybe the double NBA wouldn't be what it is now if they hadn't made history and really stood together. So I think it's a great example of athletes who came together and and changed history forever. So I think that was something really powerful as well. And the last one, I think it's a takeaway, not just for me, but for everybody in this class, is just to educate myself. I think when we look at when we see everything that's going on in our society today in US or even in other countries, we always think like, oh, how can I bring a change? And I believe the most important thing is for you to understand what's going on, for you to study and know uh, what's happening in our society today, history back there, like what happened, some part like cycles that have been happening over and over and again, and how society tries to to change like the idea, and kind of like slow down the process of like becoming better, you know. And the white supremacy so many times try to kind of like not just to slow down, but like uh, influence people to believe they alone they can be the change, but that's not true. The only way to change is when bring um, people together, and even people who's not suffering by that problem, like necessarily being influenced by that problem right now, but no, for them to understand that they can help those and help to change society. I think that's what's going to bring the change. So I'm grateful I took this class. I hope that could be something that I can introduce and tell people about it for the future. Thank you.